Hello, my name is Mary O'Mara, and I'm here with Dr. Lois Merriweather Moore, 2008 inductee into the Marin Women's Hall of Fame in the area of education. Welcome, Dr. Moore.
Thank you so much, Mary.
So tell us, where were you born?
I was born in a little still town, Lackawanna, New York, and it's just outside of Buffalo at 2306 Turnpike Avenue. And I'm not sure why I continue to remember that address, but I do, yeah.
So you were raised in New York.
Yes.
So tell us about your childhood.
I was the last of 7 children, and shortly after I was born, we moved to into Buffalo and into the city itself. My dad worked at the steel plant in Lackawanna. That was in the booming days when the steel industry was really booming. So we moved from Lackawanna right across from the steel mill into the city of Buffalo, and we lived down a little street called Adams Street down in the inner city of Buffalo. We stayed there for, I guess, about 2 years, and then my dad, he was able to earn enough money to buy a house. And the house that my dad purchased cost $5,600. So that's where I was born. And then when they did redevelopment down in the city, and they tore down the house, and we had to move to another house. And it was very hurtful to me because I had moved to California, and then the house that I had remembered the most was all of a sudden gone out of my life, but I adjusted. So I went to school in Buffalo, and the elementary schools didn't have names, they had numbers. So I started at PS 15, and then I went to PS 37, and then to the middle school, high school there, and then on to the University of Buffalo. So I have good memories.
So you told me about a significant mentor that you had in high school.
Yeah, in middle school, it was Anna Howlett, and she was my Spanish teacher, and she had polio, and I really loved her. There's no other words to describe her. She was just a loving human being that made every student feel special. And she taught Spanish, and that's how I fell in love with Spanish. And living close to the Canadian border, most of my classmates and friends were taking French, and some were taking Latin. But I didn't want any part of French or Latin. I wanted Anna Howlett's class. And she just had a way of making every student feel that they were just the most significant person in the world. And I always wanted to emulate that, you know, when I did become a teacher. And I realized how important a student can feel just based on the relationship with the teacher. And that's the thing that, to me, motivated students to want to learn that personal relationship with the teacher. So I always tried to be like Mrs. Howlett.
So you've known your husband for how long?
Oh, we grew up together. We grew up together, and we went to the same church, Trinity Baptist Church. Our parents knew each other, and we were on the usher board together at church. And I was in the choir. He couldn't sing. I could. And then after we graduated from high school, he went to the military, and I hung around, went to college. And then when he came back, he sort of looked at me differently, and then ultimately we got married. He had his last station out in California at Hamilton Air Force Base, and he just loved it out there, and he convinced me to come out, and that's what I did. We got married and came out here, and we've never gone back.
So you chose a profession in education.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
I don't know, there's something about learning and education. And I, you know, in addition to Miss Howlett, I just sort of got hooked on the desire to have information. You know, there comes a point in your life when you discover that information is power. And I just felt that to know as much as I could would push me to be what I could be as much as I could. And so I was always thirsting for education, just more education. I love learning. There's no other way to put it. And I enjoy sharing that love of learning to know how to learn with other people.
So what was your first teaching assignment?
First teaching assignment, I was a student teacher at East High School in Buffalo, New York. And I must have been about 20, 21 years old. And I'll never forget, I'm walking down the hall and I'm feeling all important because now I'm a student teacher, right? And that was back in the days when many students smoked. And so this young lady, she walks up to me, and I guess she thought I was one of the students, and she asked me, did I have any matches? I'm like, no. And then, you know, it's like, well, should I report her? What should I do kind of thing. But the teaching experience itself at the school was wonderful, and that was the school that I had graduated from. And so it was like going back to my alma mater, but I was the mater, and not not just an alma. So it felt really good. And then after that, I decided that I wanted to work for the YMCA, and so I worked for a little while for the YMCA of Buffalo, New York, MCA, Young Men's Association. Had a good experience there, and then I went back into, I got a job at the University of Buffalo with like an intermediary school, helping students transition from high school into university. And I stayed there for about a year, and then I decided I was in love, so I left and came to California with my husband, Terry.
And you have two daughters.
Two daughters who are wonderful people. Her name is Katrina. She lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the other one is Crystal, and she lives here in the East Bay.
And your grandmother?
I am a grandma, yeah. I have a wonderful grandson. His name is Devin, and even though he lives on the East Coast, we spend a lot of time with him. And in a way, it's sort of ironic because when my kids came up, their grandma lived on the East Coast. They lived on the West Coast. And now with me, my grandson is on the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast. So I'm not sure what the message is there, but it gives me a lot of empathy for what my mom went through, being away from the grand.
Yeah, family support.
Oh yeah, we're a close family.
So tell us about your doctoral work with the USF students that you did.
I am with the University of San Francisco since the last 5 years. I've been with them, and it's been a wonderful experience to work with adult learners. There's the classes are like seminar classes, so you have a very close relationship with the professor and the students, and there's a lot of presentations that the scholars themselves have to do. It's not just a matter of being the educational banking that used to go on, where the professor just gives all the information. The students themselves have to pretty much research the information, come in and share it, and then it's collaborated and documented, reinforced, that kind of thing. So it's an exciting thing to do because the doctoral students are learning information that they want to learn. There's the umbrella of what they have to do, but under that umbrella and within the curriculum, they can go in directions that strengthen them in their professions and what they're doing. And so they select the areas they want to do deeper research in, and I guide that research.
And tell us about the groundbreaking work you did.
We published a book, and this came about as a result of research papers that the scholars had done on the dispersion of Africans and African culture throughout the world. The idea that the seat of civilization is in Africa, and so everything else, all civilization emanates from the continent of Africa. So when you look at the people of the world and the color stratas, not so much race, because race is a social construct, but the color stratas of people and how that transforms itself around the world when you go to different places and you see people with dark skin and you wonder, well, how did that come about? Well, some immigrated, but then you have generations of people in some areas with dark skin. And so how did that come about? And so to be able to do research to find out what that was a result of. And it was not always a result of the slave trade, whether you're talking about the transatlantic slave trade or you're talking about the trans-Sahara slave trade going the total opposite direction. Many people from Africa left Africa because of wars, of famines, the fact they wanted adventure, they wanted to see what the rest of the world was about. And so oftentimes there's a mindset, especially in American culture, that when you travel and when you see people, especially in the United States, whose skin is dark, they arrived there because of slavery. And that's not always true. It's not always true. And so we had scholars who did research in the areas of Mexico and South America and Spain, to see what the enclaves of people of color were. in those countries. And then as a result of their research, we put it all together. We found a publisher, and the scholars were published, and they were dancingly happy. So it was an exciting thing to do. Hard work, but that's what learning is all about. And I find that when you can discipline yourself to learn in any area, it pushes and stretches you in other areas of your life. There's a feeling that, when things come up, well, I can do this because I've done X. So that means that I can also do Y and Z. So it was a good thing that way also. But a lot of work on the part of the scholars, but when they were finished, they were very happy about it.
You gave a very empowering speech at the anniversary party, the 20th anniversary party for the Women's Hall of Fame.
Thank you.
And I know the girls at my table were very empowered by your advice to them. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy. Don't let anyone stand in your way, or some of the words you used. Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
That's how you empower your students?
Without actually using those words,
Mm-hmm.
I empower them. I think that sometimes when things are going well, we're usually fine. It's when things are not going well. And sometimes something will not be going well and we'll be feeling down about it. And then right about the time when we can get up and feel okay about it, it's like smack, here comes something else. And sometimes, just one thing after another can do that in your life. And I think it's happened to all of us in our lives where it's like, how much more can I take kind of thing. But my basic philosophy is that the Spirit of God is not going to lead me where His grace won't keep me. And to be able to hold on to that belief, no matter what happens, whether it's good or it's bad, but especially when it's bad, knowing that I'm not standing out there alone. I'm not standing out there by myself. Even if there are no physical friends and family around, that I'm not here by myself. And so to hold on to that belief to me is very important. And to know that, what I can't do, ask somebody, pick up the phone, get some help from somebody, let someone know what I need, and don't be feeling so much, well, I can take care of everything by myself. I can handle it by myself. I can't handle everything by myself. I'll tell you in a minute, I need some help over here. I need some help. And that's okay. That's okay to do.
So how do you instill these wonderful attributes into your students? Because obviously they come out of your classes feeling as though they have more skills personally than they had going in. So you don't preach to them. So how do you do it?
I'm not sure. I think just to be an example to people, just the way you talk to them, the way you walk with them, whether it's physically walking with them or guiding them through writing a research paper, the tone of voice that you use. To be encouraging of people, because I find that with my scholars, they'll beat up on themselves enough in terms of what they feel they can't do, where their weaknesses are, where their incompetencies are. So as a teacher, you don't have to tell students what they can't do, what they're not capable of. They sort of know. And as people, I know my weaknesses, you don't need to tell me. But to look at me and encourage me about my strengths, because sometimes, I think I'm strong in a certain area, but then when someone tells me, you know what, you really got it going on in that area, it validates me, and it makes me feel a little bit stronger, and I take a few more challenges out there. So I think for me the important thing is to continue to tell my students to build on their strengths, not to be phony about it, but to actually tell them the areas where they are strong. Because, I find that in my own life, when I can build on an area and make that stronger, it tends to emanate into other parts of my life, and those become stronger also. And I think that as women, we can do that.
Any significant challenges that you had to overcome? Anything, you've worked through so many things, you've done so many incredible things, you're very wise.
Thank you.
So that wisdom comes from something.
I don't know, in the black culture we call it mother wit. And I'm sure it's called that in other cultures too. It's just a feeling that you have sometimes. I think for me it's been really important to stay focused on where I want to be, not get sidetracked, especially by other people's stuff. You know, because sometimes things can happen to me. They'll happen to me. I'll be real personal. They'll happen to me, and I'll think, whoa, where did that come from? That was personal. And then I'll take a minute and back up and say, you know what? That wasn't even about you. That was about what that person was dealing with at that time in their life, and you happened to be there. So, you can still stay focused on what you want to do, where you want to go. Sometimes it is personal, and I think to be able to decipher when that is, when you're just going along, living life, doing what you enjoy doing, and other people and situations will maliciously come into your life. I think that it's at those kind of times that you have to sort of stop and meditate on, okay, I've got some choices here. I've got some choices here. I can stop my life kind of thing and deal with this stuff. Or if it's not impacting me in a life and death situation, I can let it sit right there and move on. Just move on. And so the crazies that people are doing, they'll still be doing them. But you're not there in the middle of it. You are not there in the middle of it. So, to me, I have a choice. Do I want to stay in the middle of stuff that's not good, it's not healthy, it's not nurturing to me? Or do I want to just move on and do the things that do nurture me? I don't know, I see it especially with men, something happened with a man and I'm going to get revenge, I'm going to get them back. The energy that takes, the life energy to stay angry, to seek revenge, to make it right. To me, it's not worth it. I'm busy having a good time. I'm very busy having a good time.
Well, you've used the word choice many times
Yeah.
in this interview. So I think that is something that a lot of young girls struggle with, making the right choices. So what advice can you give them in terms of how to think about that? Because I think that's a very powerful lesson.
Yeah. I think to the extent that you can, to always surround yourself with true friends and good family members. And then the choices that you make, to me, you'll always reflect back on, how's this going to impact not just me, but my friends and my family? I may do something that it makes me feel really good at the time, but how's this going to impact my family and my friends if it turns out that this wasn't a good choice that I made? What are the consequences? So I have 5, 10, 20 minutes of fun and good times. But then if something happens, that things come to light or things sort of backfire and there are consequences, what would those consequences be? How would they impact me? And how would they impact my family? Going back to Grandma, with my book title, The Celebration Party at Grandma's House. Our families and our friends feel so good for us when good things happen to us. They want to be in the celebration of that. And so when you live your life, to realize you're not just living it for you. You're not just living it for you, but you're living it for you, your friends, and your family, people who are special to you. And I think to make choices based on that is really important. So then I'm not making this choice just based on Lois Moore. I'm making this choice based on Lois Moore and Susie Merriweather, my mom who's no longer here, and Gus Merriweather who's no longer here, and all my aunts and uncles and my sisters and brothers and my very close friends. So these decisions, these life decisions, they're not just all about me. Because when you think about it, when things happen to us, whether we're sick and in the hospital or we wind up in juvenile court or something, oftentimes it's friends and family who's sitting next to us helping to pull us through. We're not there by ourselves. And that's a good thing. So then on the flip side of it, when I make these choices, or I'm going to have a lot of fun, I'm going to have a good time, well, you do that within boundaries. I like to have a good time more than anybody. But we have to make some choices about what are the boundaries of having a good time. And I think especially for young people now, because, 30, 40 years ago, you could have a good time and it was not as dangerous.
Mm. The world is a different place.
Oh, it's a very different place. It's a very different place. And so we have to be very careful. Young people have to be so careful now about the choices they make, the things they do.
So describe the table of life.
My table of life. For me, it comes from the 23rd Psalm in the Bible. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He prepareth a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. And when I think about that, I think about it in terms of life, that everything I need is there for me. And I can pick some things, and sometimes it might be the wrong things, but all the right things are there for me, and they've been prepared there for me. And all I have to do is be patient, make wise choices, and, life will reward me for that. And I just firmly believe that. And sometimes I think in those in the mountaintop experiences, it's easy to say, yeah, that's true. But it's in those valley experiences in your life when things are difficult and you wonder, is that true? Are things really prepared for me? Is there a good life prepared for me? Why are things so difficult? What's the test here? What's the message here? But I firmly believe that, if you believe, if you have patience, and, if you can get rid of the fear and the doubt and the anger in many cases that sometimes weigh us down, hold us back, blind us to the good things that are on the table of life. Sometimes we stand in our own way. I think most times somebody else is standing in our way, but many times we can stand in our own way where we block the positive things that are waiting out there on that table of life for us. So I want all the good things on the table of life. I want them all. And so far I've had them.
And what are your plans for the future?
I'm not sure yet. I'm really not sure. I've got a couple of books in my head that I want to do, I want to work on. I find that in addition to research, I enjoy writing. I really enjoy writing. So that's sort of sitting quietly in the back corner of my life.
Do you have any titles you want to share with us?
Well, one of them is a book for students who have graduated from high school, gone into college. And I think that when you're at that point in your life, you are so high on life, you're so excited. The exhilaration is just running through your body. It's like, I've finished with high school, I'm on the way to college, I'm out of mom and dad's house, I am free, right? And then all of a sudden you get to that campus and reality sets in. And if you're not careful, if you're not focused, you'll be weeded out. The system will weed you out for one reason or another. If you pick the wrong friends, if you don't pick the right classes, if you don't watch your finances and run into debt, if you hook up with a girlfriend or a boyfriend that is toxic for you, it can railroad you. And if you don't stay focused on why you went to college, what that excitement was about. And so the book title that I have is 21 Steps to Graduation and the Celebration Party at Grandma's House. So, and it'll go through all the things that as a college student, you have to be mindful of, you have to watch out for. And that's one that I'm working on. The other one is Women in Power. Women in Power. I became acquainted with a group of women in business education, philanthropy through Harvard University. Women from around the world, very inspiring women, and to sit in sessions and listen to their stories, and I'm thinking, wow, women in general need to know about this. And so I'm thinking of writing a book of essays by high-powered women.
It's exciting. And then will you take that on the road and become a speaker as well? I think you'd be very engaging.
That has crossed my mind. I've done some speaking. I've done quite a few speaking engagements, and I do enjoy doing it. And I enjoy doing it a lot. And I think the reason I know the reason I enjoy doing it a lot is because what I see the women get out of a presentation where they're in a session with other women who are dealing with some of the same things they're dealing with, and knowing that there are no magical answers, but you can take some steps to get to the place where you want to be, and to be okay with that process, you know, with the pain and the anger and the hurt and all the things that go with it, to be okay with that process and where you get to in the end of it. Without crushing anybody else. I think sometimes, you know, in us getting from point A to point B as women, we can be brutal. We can be a lot worse than Caligula. We can be brutal. And to know how to do that and to bring my sister women along with me to do it so that we can help each other. Real important.
That's a book I want to read, that's for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, those two books, I have them in the back of my mind, and I have an outline for both of them, and it's just deciding that now I want to sit down and take the time to do that.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Moore.
Thank
It's been a pleasure.
you, Mary.